Here's a typical warm-up that I use for most of my lifting sessions. Here you can see men's soccer. We're using a series of drills, kind of like dot drills, where they're jumping around a pattern that I kind of map out for them up on the wall for a period of about 5 to 7 seconds. We don't actually use dot drills. We just use imaginary dots just to make it a lot simpler, more for convenience and to save time. Really right now we're being really general with the warm-up. We're just trying to increase some blood flow to the muscles, increase core temperature and muscle temperature, maybe even prime the central nervous system a little bit with these mini plyometric type exercises. As you'll see, the warm-up will progress from more of a general, a more simple warm-up to a more specific and more complicated warm-up as we get closer to the main lifts of the day. We could see here we started with 2-foot drills, and now we're progressing to 1-foot drills to kind of slowly ramp up the intensity and the focus needed to get these guys ready for the lift of the day. Not a huge fan of dot drills or speed ladders or things like that from the standpoint of I don't believe that they actually can increase foot quickness or foot speed or any of that sort of thing, or agility, but I do believe they're good for a quick warm-up when you don't have a lot of space or a lot of time to kind of get the kids to work, get them warm, get the blood flowing a little bit, so that you can move on to more specific drills that'll help them for the day. Here we're doing a drill which I call DDR, basically just chopping the feet and really working on their ability to kind of flip their hips and open them up quick, because I think that's very important. No matter what sport you play, what type of athlete you are, at some point you're going to have to backpedal, turn and sprint. And I think if you can knock out drills like that in the warm-up, you're kind of killing two birds with one stone. So after we got the blood flowing a little bit, we're going to move to some of those more specific exercises. The main lifts for this day were the front squat and the bench press. So here we're just using a little stick work. We're going for about 10 to 15 reps on most of these exercises. Really just trying to get our general warm-up and take it to more specific for that front squat here. So here the coaching cues are really teaching the guys to sit back on their heels, push those knees out. Right now you can't see it, but on the left they're all working in front of a mirror. Not a huge fan of mirrors once we're actually in the lift. I feel like you need to get that kinesthetic awareness of where you're at by just feeling your body, feeling where the weight is, those sorts of things. But in the warm-up, I think it can help educate the guys on, all right, this is where you want your feet. Let's push your knees outside your feet. Help kind of get that feeling in the warm-up, and then hopefully that'll carry over to when they're on the rack. Like I said, the other movement of the day was close grip bench press. So here we're just doing some things to address that, those pushing muscles and a little bit of core and shoulder stabilization, which are all obviously very important. So what we're doing here is all together. I'm staying down. We're holding an iso push-up about halfway down, so the elbows are at 90 degrees for about 5 to 10 seconds. I'll say up. They push up into kind of a side plank with one arm up in the air. Working on some core stabilization, some shoulder stability. I kind of like to do this all as a team, kind of military style. Kind of gives that team unity feel of coming in, accomplishing a goal, doing things together, also being disciplined. I like to try to build all that in at the same time. I feel like you can get a lot accomplished in a short period of time in a warm-up if you do things kind of that way. Here we're going to move into another exercise where we put the stick behind their behind their back, kind of in the crook of their elbows, and this is really good. I found it effective to warm them up to work on that thoracic extension that's going to be necessary once they get to that front squat. A lot of times the thoracic spine or the low back is usually the limiting factor on most squatting type movements, so I found that this will help teach them to keep their chest up, elbows up, by having that stick kind of dig into their thoracic spine and give them that feedback of, hey, I got to keep my chest up, because at some point when you're at the bottom of the front squat and you're trying to drive up, if that chest falls, the bar is going to fall as well. so that's a good drill. Again, we do about 10-15 reps of that. Then we're going to go here right into the thing that we call crab hip extension. It's meant to be a little bit slower. The guy on the front edge here has a little bit too much lumbar extension, but coaching cues for this, what we're looking for is our guys to drive through their heels. Fingertips should be pointing towards their feet. They should be squeezing their glutes to get their hips high while trying to maintain a tight core. So by squeezing their abs, again, to limit the hyperextension at the low back. I found that most males have a lot of trouble with this, and it's more so the shoulder flexibility, probably from too much bench pressing and too much beach body workouts, but that tends to loosen up the shoulders a little bit. And again, here we're just going back to overhead squats. Again, just using the mirror, trying to help these guys keep their chest up and sit back, push those knees out. And again, I think warm up is a good time to just echo a lot of those cues that you're going to be using during the lift, so that when they're under heavy weight, adrenaline's flowing a little bit, they'll just go back to what they know, and hopefully we can instill that in the warm up. Here we've moved on to another variation. We're just going to straight dynamic push up into a side plank to warm up all those major muscles so they're good to go when they get over to the bench. Again, from here, once we actually get over to the platforms or the racks, we're actually going to make the warm up even more specific, meaning we actually go to the movements of that day. So, the front squat and close grip bench press, they would actually get over there, give them their cards. The warm ups are built into their cards on what percentage they should use. Depending on the time of the year, I give them percentage ranges, so they'll actually go to their card and they'll have a high end and a low end as a range depending on how they're feeling for that day. In men's soccer situation, we have them after they come off the field from practice, so depending on how hard practice was, some guys are able to hit their numbers, some are not. So I found that in the past, when I'm using percentages, that if I give them a hard number, some guys, the overachievers, are always going to try to hit those numbers, and what's going to sacrifice is their quality of movement or the depth or something like that. So by giving them ranges like that, usually anywhere from a 5 to 10% range, you can keep the overachievers from going too heavy when they can't actually hit their numbers, and keep them on the low end. And I found that the speed of the bar stays a little bit higher, technique stays a little bit higher, but it also gives them the option, if they're feeling good, say they didn't practice that much or practice wasn't that hard, that they can really go for it. And I find it accomplishes a lot, especially in season or during their spring season, which is the case in the footage here.